Yo, what up, Street Talks? Eric Kim. Alright, so the thought. This one is on mental health and mental hygiene. So I recently did some research on the word hygiene. It's kind of interesting because hygiene essentially comes from health. So, you know, mental hygiene, mental health is essentially the same thing. So now we're all talking about like, oh, it's important to be hygienic in terms of avoiding the spread of diseases and germs and stuff like that. But very rarely do we think of the germs, the diseases of kind of like negative people and negative influences, and just kind of like, you know, people who are trying to like shame you or make you feel guilty or whatever it may be. And I think first and foremost, the most important thing is to kind of realize when it's happening to you and to just kind of like, kind of be suspicious of people's motives. You're like, why did they say that, or why they kind of put me into that position? And you know, what is that person's psychology, to kind of better understand that. Then after that, then you kind of determine and deciding like how important is your own personal mental health and your own personal mental hygiene, and whether you're gonna let people fuck with you or not. So I think at least for myself, my mental health, my mental hygiene is extremely important to me. And so I will kind of position myself so I won't let other people kind of fuck with me or fuck with my mind. So generally this is why I don't read anything from anybody on the internet, because like it doesn't really matter to me. And what matters is my own mental health, my own mental hygiene, and you know, how I think and so forth. So very rarely do we talk about the contagion of emotions, the contagion of just like pettiness, the contagion of other people's like kind of like negative vibes or negative spirits. And I think it's really important to kind of keep those negative emotions at bay and to prevent the spread of that. So first and foremost, like it's kind of interesting, like the notion of social distancing. You know, we do a physical space, right? Like 6 foot or 12 feet or 20 feet. I try to observe the 30-foot rule. So if I see somebody walking on the side of the sidewalk, I'll just cross the side of the street. But generally speaking, very rarely do we mentally distance ourselves from negative influences, negative peoples, because ultimately, you know, the saying that you're the average of the 5 closest people to you, I think it's actually pretty correct. So generally speaking, when it comes to your life, you know, assuming you have great ambitions and things you want to do in your life, why would you spend any of your life dealing with bullshit or bullshit peoples or bullshit anything? Especially if you feel like it's not really helpful, beneficial to you, and so forth. And so I would just kind of encourage you to be sus of everyone else, their motives. And sometimes people are negative without even knowing that they're negative. It's kind of like crabs in a barrel. It's like, you know, you're a crab in a barrel and there's a bunch of other crabs and you're trying to get out. And as you're trying to climb out, people's just trying to pull you down. And it's not necessarily to the fault of those other people, but some people are just kind of like, that's just how they are. And it don't really make sense to blame them, because, you know, a lot of people are products of their upbringing, their childhood, and whatever. But it's our duty to recognize that and dictate for ourselves whether we're gonna let that kind of fuck with us or not. And my suggestion is, yeah, don't let nobody fuck with you, is generally a good notion. So, yeah, so essentially one thing I think about in life is take care of your mental hygiene and take care of it well, because who knows, maybe your mental health hygiene, your mental health is actually more important than like your physical health or your physical hygiene. So like, you know, it's one thing to get sick, you know, get a flu or a cold or whatever and to recover. But the problem with like mental health is when things really fuck you up kind of bad, there often is no recovery from that. So, or it could actually sting deeper or linger with you long. Because like illnesses, you get ill, you get over it in, you know, maybe like a few days, a week, a month, maybe a few months, whatever, and then you're back to normal. But the problem with mental health is once he's a little bit fucked up, it's hard to get back on track and get back to normal. But then again, I don't really believe in, like, I don't think life is not about having no suffering. It's more of like how to take the suffering of life and to channel it in some sort of positive, generative way. So even for myself, when I think about, you know, like my past or things that make me angry or injustices or, you know, pains or struggles, like my life strategy is always like take whatever is bad and just try to make something good out of it. And obviously it's kind of annoying, it's like, oh, you know, look on the bright side of things, blah blah, but certainly to look on the bright side of things takes a lot more skill, bravery, courage, and ingenuity than to just complain. Because to complain and bitch and moan about shit is just, that's so basic. Like anyone could do that. Like I could do that all day long, but figuring out how to take my pain, suffering, and difficulty and be able to endure difficulty, in Vietnamese they call it chịu khó, which literally means endure pain or endure suffering. And to know that life is about pain and suffering, and that's what actually makes it beautiful and good. Because if life was too easy and if life was a cakewalk, I don't know, I would think that most of us humans would be so basic and not great and grand. And so I think the greatest life is the life of kind of the maximal pain and suffering and difficulty, but that actually acts as a stimulus to make you the most great, grand, epic individual possible. And so yeah, just think about that in life. Hello. And one of the things that's important is the goal in life is to become bigger, greater, more epic, and to know that pettiness is beyond you and beneath you.